Okay,
I'm
got
going
it.
to hand it over to you, Bill.
Okay. So listening to all your biographies, I feel like I'm giving a how to make money lecture to Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. But I'm just gonna go forward with what I planned. And so let me tell you a little about maybe me. As a kid into my 20s, I was as skinny could be. I was 140 pounds and got married, got older, metabolism slowed down, and the next thing I knew, I was outgrowing my pants before I'd get home from the store with them. I mean, that was how fast I got what's called an umbilical hernia. And I looked it up, and it's very common among pregnant women. Just to give you an idea of what I looked like. So I was just getting bigger and bigger. As a kid, I could eat 3 dozen donuts and then lose 2 pounds at the same time. But those days were long over. And one day I was at a Nets game in Meadowlands. I was in the 10th row, and I noticed I had to stop at row 5 and take a break. And I said, "This is just getting too big." And I remember once walking up the seat with a perfect stranger, and he said to me, "Are you okay?" Because I was breathing so heavily. Meanwhile, the 88-year-old woman who sat in front of me used to fly up the steps. So I said, something's got to give. So that was when I taught myself how to get active. So early on, I learned a big expression of mine. And just, by the way, anything I'm going to say works for me. I'm not going to sit here and say this is for everybody. Take what I say, use what you can, and don't use what you can't. Anything that I say, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice at any stage of this lecture. Okay, my lawyer gave me the green light. He said I covered all my bases. I'm an accountant, and we go to seminars like lawyers do, how not to get sued. So anyway, so I bought myself a treadmill, and I said, let me just see what happens with it, and there was a lot of money I didn't have, so it wasn't going to be a laundry basket. I was going to make sure I used it. And if you notice, you ever been to a gym like the first Monday after New Year's weekend, and you hear these conversations, people says, "Wow, I did 2 spin classes, 3 yoga classes, 4 aerobic classes, and I was on the treadmill. And boy, this was the best first day I ever had." And then you don't see them again until March. And I always like people like that because they sign up, they pay for a year, and they keep the price down for everybody else. But and that's why I said less is more. So I felt the way to stay active was to do less than I can every day, just to get in the habit of doing it every day. I wanted to be like, I brush my teeth, I brush my hair, I get dressed, and I work out. It had to be part of the routine. One way I've learned to stay active is I just analyze when I do my best workout. So for example, if I work out every morning, say at 8 o'clock, and I keep that habit, I'll do it every day because I'm a morning person. I'm up at 4 o'clock without a alarm clock. If I say I'm going to do it at 11 o'clock, it goes down to about 50%. 2 o'clock, we're down to 20%. After dinner, I'll let you know the next time it happens. Okay, so I found what works for me. I got to do it first thing every morning. So now that I'm working from home, I run by the water near my house, and I'm there every morning at 7:30. And one trick I learned very early on was, I read this. I don't have anything original. Everything I know, I was taught to me by other runners, other athletes, coaches, and stuff. And someone said, on a day you don't feel like working out, the deal you have to make with yourself is you just show up. So if I planned on running 4 miles at the Cross Island, and I have no intentions of doing it, I got to put on my running clothes, put on my sneakers, go there, stand there for a minute, and then if I still want to go home, no problem. Well, same thing with Central Park when I worked in the city. And a lot of times I said, okay, I'm just going to Columbus Circle, walking to the running path, and turning around, I'm coming back home. And then I do 6 miles, because once you're there, you're going to do it. So I found just getting established as a habit got me doing it. And again, if I could do an hour and a half, on the treadmill, I'll do 45 minutes because I find like I'm into Peloton now, and with the Peloton, every time I see there's a 2-week break or a 1-week break where I didn't go on it at all, it was always preceded by me doing a PR. And I did the PR probably because some idiot was racing me, on the leaderboard, and I took it personally, killed myself like a moron. And that's why I covered the leaderboard now. I don't even look at it. But then I wound up taking 2 weeks off. So I find, there are times you have to push yourself, and not to step on Ray's seminar coming up with the 80-20, but I love it. 80% of my workouts are at what they call a conversation pace. In other words, I could tell 2 hours worth of cabbie stories, if I'm running at the right pace. So that's what I did. So when I first started out, I was on the treadmill. And again, what's important to me is to make it fun. I didn't want it to be like eating spinach. You know what I mean? It had to be fun for me. If you like spinach, it's just an example, don't. And so I had to make it fun. So I remember that was when iPods were new and they had a little screen on them. And when you first start working out, you realize how few songs you really have on that iPod, because I just got bored of everything on it. I couldn't listen to it anymore. So probably the most unbelievable thing happened. iTunes had just started showing videos on those little Apple things. I think I got one here someplace. And so I was looking through, and there was this TV show. It was in season 4 called 24. And I bought the whole season. And as far as I'm concerned, that was the greatest show ever made. And what started happening, if you watch 24 without commercials, it's about 44 minutes. And my workout was an hour. So then I would go to the next one. Next thing you know, I was working out for 90 minutes instead of 45 because I was so into the show. When we used to watch 24, my eyeballs used to pop out of my head. Okay. But the point isn't, 24 is the music. It's just got to keep it fun. And what's fun to me is listening. So now during the pandemic, when I was running alone, I don't even want to tell you how many books I listened to, and podcasts and stuff. So the whole point is just keeping it fun. So like every other rookie, what happened was I got bored on the treadmill. One day I went out and I said, I lived in Forest Hills at the time. And I said, let me just run around the stadium, Forest Hills Stadium, where they used to have the US Open before I moved to Flushing. And that place is sacred to me because Janis Joplin played there. And I always feel like, I can still feel Earth vibrating from that concert. And so it was the first time I was running outside. I had the little Nike Plus, I think they called it. And I kid you not, I was a quarter mile into my first run ever, or the first one since elementary school. I ran a lot in elementary school. I used to get chased home every day. But since then, this was like my first run. And quarter mile into it, I said to myself, I'm going to run a marathon, just like that. And I wound up running that marathon, but along the way, I got tendonitis and plantar fasciitis. And there's basically what my doctor told me. She says both of those injuries are what we call overtraining injuries. As I learned out, the marathon is not like a accounting final. You can't cram, 2 nights before and get it done. You do the miles over months, or you crash and burn. And so I learned, a lot into that. So that led me to other activities. So at the time, there was a product out called WeFit, and I had no interest in them, except I read an article like they're impossible to get. And I was in an electronics store and they had one. And I said, could I have that one? I only wanted it because they were hard to get. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given it a second thought. And they had a yoga module on it. And I thought yoga was like, what I saw in Woodstock, a bunch of people going, oh, like that. And I realized it was a good physical thing. And I noticed it helped me run. And again, but sticking to the theme, it was fun and it was different. So now I got bored with the treadmill I'm running. I ran myself into injury. I found yoga. And what they all had in common is that they were all fun for me. And so I know, everybody here is a triathlete and everything, but somebody who might be watching this on tape might be new starting out. And there's a million ways to stay fit and get fit. Okay. The starting off with the basics, a walk around the block. Going to the extreme, you're Hillary, where you swim 9 miles and bike 50 miles, and then you come home and have your Rice Krispies and go to work. And there's a whole lot of stuff in between. Just so you know, I'm pretty much a runner only. A lot of people hate the treadmill, and a lot of bikers probably feel like that about a Peloton. I prefer the Peloton over regular biking because I live in Queens, which is part of New York City for those of you who aren't from around here. And I always say I'm not going to get run over by a bus on my Peloton. The streets in Queens, big potholes. You take it off, you get a face plant, and it's just I'm just too scared. I could go on a trail, not a trail. We know how I feel about trails, but I mean like a regular bike path, like over by Jones Beach or something, and that's fine. But I can't bike. But the whole point is whatever you enjoy. That's what's because if you don't enjoy it, you're going to stop doing it, and you stop doing it, then you're not fit. So I got into yoga, and I noticed yoga helped me in two ways. Yoga prevented injuries, and it also made me faster because a lot of core work is done in yoga and Pilates for that matter. And with yoga and Pilates, you build your core gives you speed, or at least that's what they told me when they were trying to get me to renew. But it worked because I got very fast. The only problem with yoga was I can't stand it. I'm bored out of my mind. I don't enjoy holding plank for a minute. It's not my idea of entertainment. And it was always the kind of thing where I didn't like it when I was doing it, but I loved the way I felt. So eventually I was just at the point where every time I ran, I would limp home. And I remember one marathon that I was training for, I used to, as soon as the run was, I had to drive to the city. When I say the city, I mean Manhattan. I had to drive to the city because as soon as I cooled down, I was going to be in excruciating pain. And I found out that that was from what the doctor said was weak hips. And so that's when I joined the gym, got a trainer. And the reason I mention this because there's two ways to deal with an injury. There's one to deal with it after you get hurt, but the best way to do it is to do things before you get hurt, and that's like cross training, which Hillary talks a lot about. Cross training is like weight training, yoga, Pilates, stuff like that. It's a lot easier to prevent an injury. But anyway, so the whole common thread when I was first starting out was that I was doing stuff I enjoyed. I ran this morning. We did 200 and 400 meter repeats, and like I was just on a cloud coming home, because I just love to run. Peloton, I enjoy swimming. I don't like to get wet. If you can figure out a way I can swim without getting wet, I'll do it. But I'm not ready for it. So now there's always the issue, like how do you motivate yourself? You can't stay fit. So I already gave out one, which was just showing up at the place. The best way to stay motivated is to join a group, like Hillary's group. I take the New York Roadrunners speed classes on Wednesday morning. I can't tell you how many friends I've made over the years just by joining running groups. And again, it makes it fun. And I'll give you an example. I was doing a 16-mile run once in a marathon. It was a hot day, and I just didn't have it. My legs, we've all been there. My legs just weren't there. And one of the coaches comes up to me around mile 8, and he says to me, "What's going on?" And I said, "I just don't have it today. I don't feel it." He says, "All right, give it a little while longer, and just walk back, and tomorrow's another day." And then we started talking. So he was my age. He had been to the Fillmore East like I had. Seems like he'd been to every concert that I had been to. For those of you not from New York, the Fillmore East is probably the greatest rock and roll house that ever lived. 60s and 70s. I'm not comparing it to, the doo-wop places. And we started talking about mountains, Santana, Jimi Hendrix, Joplin. And the next thing I know, I'm looking and I said, oh crap, this Tavern on the Green. Don't we finish at Columbus Circle? He said, yeah, it's like the miles went like that. Just because we were talking, had I been alone, I would have taken the next train home. So, that's way. Also joining, just making plans to be with people will get you there. Because, for example, let's say I'm supposed to run Sunday with Hillary's group, and I wake up Sunday morning, screw this, I'm tired. I'd rather could just go to IHOP and have a waffle. And then I go, oh crap, I got to pick up Jody, and I don't want to cancel. Side of the waffle is more fun than running. I'm not going to send that text out. So it's just committing yourself. Another way to commit yourself, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's ego driven, and I always find the best way to get yourself heard is just bring your ego to a race or a workout. But I used to do this a lot when I had to work out after work, because when I had a full-time job, and I needed to push myself because it's very hard for me to run in the afternoon. I don't know why. So I would put down on Facebook, hey, I'm doing 6 miles today, even though I don't feel like it. It's hot and humid and I feel like crap, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right. And then people, oh, that's great, Bill. Oh, you're such an inspiration. Now you feel like you owe it to people, Like I said, that's an ego-driven way of motivating yourself. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it works. And then speaking of ego-driven stuff, there's always Strava. I don't even know what kudos means. I never heard the word until I started Strava, but I get a lot of kudoses every day, and then, but that's a trap, because I've seen stuff where people got themselves injured because they were playing to the Strava crowd. That's something I won't do. If I'm going to run an 18-minute mile, I feel like it, I'm going to do it, and I don't feel the need to put an apology up on the top. Yeah, stopped to help an old lady. Otherwise, it would have been an 8-minute mile, but she looked really bad. I don't do that. But Strava is good, but it also creates problems. And let's see, just social media. Yeah, so those are the ways to stay motivated. So then getting back to what I started to before, like less is more. Okay. There's a meme on Facebook Instagram too. I can't stand it. It says I don't quit when I'm tired. I quit when I'm finished. And I'm like, no, I quit when I'm tired. I mean, I don't do this for a living, again, because the whole theme of what I'm saying, you stay fit by doing activities you enjoy. Okay. I'm never going to podium. Okay. Unless I podiumed once. It was the Thanksgiving Day race. It was the William Henry Jones Invitational. I only sent out one invitation. That was to me, so I finished first. But anything short of that, I'm never gonna get to see what a podium looks like. So, if you want to kill yourself, if you kill yourself, you're gonna hurt yourself. If you hurt yourself, you're not going to be running. It's that simple. And swimming, or I always going to use running because that's what I know. But whatever the form of exercise is. Then there's other ways, other than running. You want to do some cross training and stuff. I mean, come on, this is 2022. There's so many resources out there. There's the Peloton app, which anybody can get for, I think, 30 days free. I know I have some coupons. If you need them, just let me know. But I think you can get it. You don't need me for it. You don't have to mention my name. I don't get anything for it. But the Peloton app, it has everything. It's got yoga. It's got, of course, spin. It's got walking, run, walk, treadmill. It's got so much stuff. Meditation. It's really good stuff. There's an app that a lot of people use. I never actually used it, but it's called Swift. I'm sure a lot of you, I think Hillary uses it. I'm not sure. That's a good one. Equinox has a pretty good app because Equinox owns, the hell's it called? SoulCycle, right? And so they have it, and then they have all, of course, Equinox has, a million trainers all over the world. So they took the best and they have training stuff. And then there's good old reliable YouTube. There's nothing on this planet that you can't learn on YouTube, and that includes workouts. But you got to be careful when you do this online. I would never advise somebody to do yoga for the first time on an app, because like I remember when I first started taking yoga, the teachers were very careful to show me don't let your knee go past your big toe, otherwise you might whatever that muscle is, I think you're going to need surgery, and stuff like that. You don't know if you're hurting. There's two ways to find out what you're doing will cause an injury. One is to get the injury, and the other is to have somebody tell you to stop. I prefer to have somebody tell me to stop. So you have to watch out for stuff like that. So, but YouTube has everything, and just the internet in general. You just go Google weak hips. Like, I haven't done it, but I'm sure 9 million different variations of squats, planks, mountain climbers, all this stuff would come up. And certain exercises you can't hurt yourself with, and I bought this thing. This is a core exercise. I forget the hell it's called, but you put your iPhone on it, and it's all these core exercises. It's kind of fun. Again, it's just to make it fun, So then here's my favorite part when people don't want to stay fit. I don't have the time. Really? You do. There's ways to squeeze in workouts. I'll give you an example. I was on my way home from Saratoga, and my wife wanted to stop at the outlet stores to save me money. So I'll take her any mall she wants, but I won't go in. That's like the rules. So should I hear good? So I'm in this huge parking lot. It was in the middle of COVID, even though it's an outdoor one. We went to the one called Woodbury Commons up by Wildwood, small places. It's literally a mile from Wildwood. It's in Central Valley, if you look at the address. And so I'm in this huge parking lot. My wife is out shopping, and I got in a 4-mile run just around the parking lot. Instead of just sitting in the radio or going to the Sony store or the Bose store and buying more junk that I don't need. So that's one way. If you live in an apartment, there's the old one. And I'll be honest with you, I've never done this, and I never will. Just walk up the steps. You live on the 5th floor, just walk up the steps. Or just make an exercise out of it. Go downstairs. There's 6 floors of my building. If I wanted, I could go walk up the 6, walk down, walk up the 6, keep doing it, and it's a free Stairmaster. It used to crack me up. I used to go to a gym on like the 56th and 6th in Manhattan, and it was so in Manhattan, the gyms are spread out over floors. You can't spread out, 8,000 square feet across. And I used to amaze me that people would take the elevator to the 5th floor where the Stairmasters were. Like, why don't you just take the stairs, But anyway, so that you could do that. And again, the cheapest treadmill in the world is right outside your door. It's called walking. You don't need a $3,000 Peloton treadmill to walk. And then there's stuff that this stuff I've actually done. It's like, instead of taking the subway to my office when I worked in the city, I would walk from Penn Station. Instead of paying $12 to park a block away, I park 5 blocks away for free. And I got 5 blocks round trip. That's 10. 10 blocks in New York is a half a mile. Half a mile a week, 5 days a week, that's 2.5 miles. 2.5 miles for doing nothing. Just walk in and, there's some coaches out there that'll call those, quote, junk miles. I don't know what that term means. I don't subscribe to that. There's no such thing as junk exercise, because my heart's beating, but that's how they see it. Also, no matter what you're doing, everybody's got 15 minutes sometime. Okay, you're doing the laundry. That's 30 minutes if you can't do anything when it's in the wash cycle. You can walk for 25, 12 out, 12 and a half out, 12 and a half back. Also, another trick I have when I'm doing a run, and I want to make sure that I don't quit halfway, I'll do an out and back, because once I go out, if I go out 8 miles and I deliberately left my Metro card at home and I left my wallet at home, I did this a lot before Uber and Lyft, but I'm coming back one way or the other, and it's probably going to be walking. So you're guaranteed. So once I got to 8 miles, I say, that's it, I'm done. And another way to motivate me, I never have a goal on how many miles I'm doing today. I don't say to myself, today is not 8 minute pace. That's ridiculous. That's my 200-meter pace. I was just talking about 200-meter drills. That's why I remember. I'll never say to myself, I'm doing 12:30 today, or I'm doing 45:30, or I'm doing a straight. But when I get to where I'm going, then I decide what I'm going to do based on how I feel. And if I don't feel it, I'll walk for a mile. I'll walk for an hour. I'm doing time-based a lot lately, by the way. For some reason, I just feel better if I just say I'm doing an hour, and I don't care how many miles it is. But when there's no pressure, because I'll say to myself, oh, gee, I'm supposed to do 6 miles today at a 12-minute pace. I don't have that in me. And then I'm anxiety, and then I find the excuse not to go. If I just say I'm going to go there and do what I want, I get there. And a lot of times I said to my wife, I just don't have it today. I'm just going to do 5 minutes of walk, 5 run, 25 walk. But what?
I just wanted to see, because there a couple of people have some questions, and I hate to sorry to cut you off, but can we just start to open that up for questions?
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant, but yeah, okay. Yeah, who's got a question?
Actually, I don't have a question, but I want to, basically follow up on a comment, Bill, you made earlier. One is the importance of joining a group, especially as you get older. Your friendships become more important, and this is, the group to me is, as important, the friendships there, as anything else in my life. Maybe not my kids, but as far as all my other friends, that group is important to me as any other group of friends that I have. And it really helps to keep you going. And the second is, you were talking about, Strava and not being overwhelmed. I agree completely, although I also find Strava inspirational at times, because I see people doing some amazing things. And, I want to get out there and try some of them myself. Not that I've matched them, but I think it's great that, here we are, we have a group of people mostly in their 50s and 60s, or older, and they're doing great stuff. And, you shouldn't forget, or shouldn't believe that you're limited in what you can do now. You should just go out and try it. And whether it's, swimming for the first time, doing a bike, whatever, just because you're in your 60s or whatever, fine, go out and try it anyway.
Thanks, Ray. I appreciate that. Danielle?
So
Um,
I
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
actually just had, I think, I might have a question first. I saw a little something in the chat.
There's a email, I don't know if you want to say it, or do you want me to just read it? She says, correct me if I'm wrong, but junk miles is a reference not to miles that don't count, but rather miles in excess of what you need to meet your fitness goals, make progress, or in some cases prevent exhaustion and injury. Anyone else have that understanding? I see some people just killing themselves for extra miles that don't actually help them progress, and they turn their fun workout into a chore. You know what? I want to just address that for a minute, Ime, because there is a woman that I follow on Instagram, and she tells me that whatever her coach says she should do, she always does more. She always does at least a mile or 2 miles more than what the coach told her to do. And yes, I 100% agree with you. That's junk miles. That's ridiculous. Bill, maybe you want to address that.
Well, the person, I don't know what the Webster Dictionary, definition of it is, but the way the person I know used it, in other words, it's like you have to go to the grocery store. So you run to the store and you run back. And he calls that junk miles. To him, anything that wasn't with your shirt on and your my water delivery, anything that's not with your watch on, you got it. Thanks. Those were junk miles. If you weren't in Central Park killing yourself and sweating, he called those junk miles. That's why it's a reference to. But I agree with that point. I've seen people who at mile 16, they had 18 miles planned, and mile 16, they're limping, they're dehydrated. that's, I don't call that junk miles. I just call that poor judgment. You know, I don't see that. But you know, I don't know what the definition is, but that's not the way I used it. But I agree with her point. Another question?
Danielle, you had a question?
Yeah, so how did you stick with yoga? I literally just had a conversation with Ray and John when we were battling the elements at Jones Beach on Sunday. And I'm trying to get into yoga. I know it's so good for strength, you know, like it's a less intense way of strength. I'm looking, you know, like to gear yourself up to get up and do stuff sometimes is just overwhelming. So to me, I wanted something a little bit more relaxing. How did you gear yourself up to stick with it? Because I really am struggling with it. I'm following a plan, but I don't love it, but I know it's so good. And I know, you know, like I want to do it. It's not like a torture kind of thing for me.
I'll tell you how I got into it. It's a great question. So in my mind, there's two types of yoga. There's gym yoga and there's yoga studio yoga. And so I started off, I went to a yoga studio. The first class I went in the afternoon. I thought it wouldn't be that crowded. Well, I got more than I asked for. It was just me and somebody else. And this somebody else was like a human pretzel, okay? And I never felt like an idiot in my life. It was the most unpleasant experience that I ever had. And so the teacher came over and said, listen, I could tell you knew. I didn't even know I was supposed to take off my sneakers. I mean, I just went in cold, you know. And so she said to me, we have a 10-part series, beginner series. It's every Tuesday at whatever time. And so every week was the same people. None of us knew what we were doing. It wasn't, you know, advanced people taking a beginner's class to show off how great they were. It was just us 10 beginners. And it was great because nobody felt self-conscious. And then to keep us in the habit of going, the women who ran this place, too bad to shut down, but it was the greatest yoga studio in the world. After you finish your 10th class, she would give you a deal like 10, 20 classes for like real cheap because she wanted to get you to keep going. So I started just with the teacher that I knew who taught the beginner series. And again, you would see people you knew. And I mean, it was a little difficult some of the times because, you know, I never understood this. Like I learned, one thing I learned in yoga is I don't know my right from my left, okay? And the teacher would say, twist to the left. And then I would twist the wrong way. And the looks people would give you, it's like, I'm sorry, you know, get a life, will you please? And, you know, so I realized I did, but I was very comfortable with that yoga studio. And that yoga studio wound up closing. And then I found another one on Bleecker Street, which, again, the teachers were great. It's all about finding a teacher that you're going to like, that you're going to feel comfortable with. And I would take classes at Equinox and I hated it because at Equinox, it was an aerobics class. You know, one of the yoga teachers I know who's got like 20 years experience got fired from one of the Equinox studios because people complained they weren't sweating enough. You know, like they'll do like burpees in these yoga classes. I didn't know that was a yoga post. You know, so you got to find a environment that you're comfortable with people that you're comfortable with, people who treat yoga as not as a competitive sport, because it's not a competitive sport. There's no winners. There's no winners or losers in yoga. You know, if you want to compete, go to the track. You know, not the yoga studio. And like there was one teacher, I thought he was the greatest teacher I ever had. He once said, everybody go into plank and hold it for as long as you can. And then after a minute, he says, I'm sorry, the water delivery speed is coming. I had Perrier and Poland Spring delivered. And I could tell by what little I could hear, they screwed up the order as usual. But anyway, he filled us the whole plank for a minute. No, for as long as we can. Then after a minute, he says, if you're still holding plank because you don't want to be the first person to get out of it, do me a favor, next time you come here, leave your ego at home because you're only going to get yourself hurt. And it was fantastic. And all of a sudden, everyone claps to the ground, you know. So it's basically you got to find something, teachers that you're comfortable with, and you know, at a studio that you're comfortable with. Some people like gym yoga. I never did, and I never will. And I went to a yoga class in LA Fitness, and probably the only time in my life I felt like leaving early. Hillary.
I just want to just see, you know, since we're almost running out of time over here, just if anybody else has any questions or thoughts
Yes.
or comments.
Yeah, Steve has one.
Steve, you're on mute.
There you go.
How's that?
That's good.
What a day. Just a quick comment on the yoga thing. For Danielle in particular, you might want to look on a resource, Yoga for Runners, for instance. You can find it, you know, in all the usual places. Runner's World is probably a good source. And you'll find, I think, if you search around, that they'll offer variations of yoga that are maybe more suited to the sports that we're engaging in. And you may find that some of the stretches that you're tending to do already are somewhat yoga-like. And you may be able to build on that without going full tilt yoga, but you might get some of the benefits that I think you might be interested in accomplishing. So I would maybe search a little bit, you know, in that direction for yoga for runners.
Those like a good hip stretch, like from yoga, that like,
Yep.
because I've looked at that, because there are certain places that are harder to stretch, like especially in preparation for running. So I was really looking for things like that, and from yoga. So
Yeah, they
Yes.
may also.
And I found that, yeah, I found by accident, when doing some stretching before a race, someone commented me about whether or not, you know, I was practicing yoga. And of course I said, no. And they said, well, I saw some of the movements that you're doing and it's like very like yoga-like. And I thought, no, this is just kind of like how I stretch. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me, because I realized, oh, there's some overlapping in, you know, some of the movements that we do. And that led me to like kind of teeter into the yoga for runners kind of, you know, realm. And I found it to be, you know, kind of useful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
some of the yoga for runners may also be called mobility for runners. And part of that is because, you know, a lot of guys won't do yoga if it's called yoga, but they'll do it if it's called mobility. So you might find some stuff under that as well.
Yeah, what I found about, go ahead. Somebody started to say something? I guess not. When I founded yoga, just about everything I did at yoga, I also did at PT. Maybe because of the kind of injuries I had, but that's why I got the idea. Let me instead of getting injured and going to PT, why don't I just go to yoga? It's a lot cheaper. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? I'm actually almost done anyway. So I just got two quick sections. So I started off with squeezing workout, you know, finding time to do workouts. When, like sometimes during tax season when it's super busy for me, I mean, not anymore because I'm like part-time now, but when I was a full-time worker, there's always 15 minutes you can spare. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night, and 15 minutes, that's 45 minutes, at six days a week. That's a lot of time. I don't have my calculator handy. I'm throw out a number, but that's a lot of time. So, you know, and who doesn't have 15 minutes? I mean, you know, you spend more time than that watching TV commercials. Something else, you know, my roommate in college used to do this. He used to have dumbbells that he kept by his bed and by his couch, and he's watching TV, reading a book, and he'd be, you know, like this constantly, you know, and it adds up. And then there's the old reliable, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning, right? I know Jody does that. You know, you got to be at work at 7, get up at
Brad.
get up at 4. And so then the last thing I did topic is staying engaged. Okay, in other words, so you got yourself in the habit, you got the groups, and blah blah blah. So staying engaged. The one thing I noticed, it can't be all. You can't have an all or nothing attitude. Like, oh, I'm supposed to do 12 miles today. It's too hot. I don't have 12 miles in me. So do 4, do 2. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And changing it up is important for me. If I went out and did 4 miles every day, 6 days a week, I get bored. So sometimes I do 3, sometimes I do 6, sometimes I do an hour, sometimes I do long runs, sometimes I do, and same thing with the Peloton. Sometimes I'll take a HIIT class, sometimes I'll take a power zone class. You just mix it up. And then my favorite way to stay motivated, and this comes back to the running classes. This is what I use every Wednesday morning. The reward system. If I go to the city to do a workout, I'm going to wind up in Penn Station. I'm going to wind up in Zaros, and I got a black and white in my living room in my kitchen waiting for me. And believe me, it's worth 6 miles for a black and white from Zaros. If people aren't from New York, place is absolutely incredible. And the last thing, this is a trap. I see this happening with young kids, and I see it happening with people as they get older. I don't see it in the in-between group. So when you first start running, obviously the first day you go out there, you just set a PR. Okay, then you set another one. Then over time, you're PRing all over the place, and then all of a sudden you say, "Hey, I haven't had a PR in a while." And so my last half marathon, I think, was a 2:35, and my PR is 1:55, and it wasn't that long ago. And you can't, as I say, that people say, how long ago was that PR? And I tell them, about 8,000 donuts ago, because that's where my PRs went, right into Dunkin' Donuts. But the point is, don't say to yourself, well, I can't run a 1:54. I'm not going to the L Corral. That's humiliating. I used to be in the D Corral, and when I had a low letter, in New York Road Runners, the lower the letter, the faster the pace group. And I used to be in C and D, and I ate my way to M or N or double V, but I don't say to myself, well, if I can't do the 1:54, I'm not doing anything. I do what I can. I set a goal, and if my goal is 2:40 and I do a 2:35, I'm happier than if my goal was 1:50 and I did it too. Because again, it's just what I could do that day. So I try not to, I've seen so many people drop out of races and then say, I'm not running anymore because they're embarrassed with their times, So don't say. And then the other thing is, the last thing is, we kind of touched on this before. Somebody I know, I haven't seen her in about 10 years, and she was very, very overweight, very out of shape, and she just put on LinkedIn, one of my least favorite apps, by the way. I call it Asswipe City, but anyway, everybody's thanking the most incredible people in the world and blah blah blah, and oh, you're great, and I get sick every time I go there. But anyway, she posted that she's got out of bed for the first time in 4 months. She got out of bed because she could finally put pressure on her leg, because she ran a half a marathon and totally destroyed her body. And she went on to say, but I got my medal. Wow, that's good. So you had something to look at for 4 months in bed. There's nothing wrong with pushing hard. You know what I mean? If the coach says, come on, you could do 30 seconds a mile faster or whatever. Yeah, that's great. But you got to know the difference between pushing and injury. And I've done probably 200 races in my life. I've dropped, and twice I dropped out, but I don't drop out of little stuff. I go big time. I dropped out in the New York half at mile 6 once because I just knew I wasn't going to finish. And I was the 72nd on the west side. And I knew that that's the closest I was going to be to my car for the rest of the race. So I said, I'm never finishing this one anyway. And then I actually dropped out in New York, at New York Marathon on 88th and First, which is about mile 16. And the thought process was very easy. I could have pushed my way through, and it was my first marathon. Like an idiot, I probably would have, but I had had several marathon medals already. And I remember saying to myself, if I stop now, I could probably go running tomorrow. If I try to finish, I might be out for 6 months. And it's a no-brainer. 1 medal for 6 months, it's not a decision. So, like I said, I don't, that meme, I don't quit when I don't stop when I'm tired. I stop when I'm finished. No, when I'm risking injury, I stop. And so let me just end with one thing. My favorite meme. It's on Facebook. I'm sure you've all seen it. The person with a full body cast from head to toe. He's in traction and everything, and he says, "Doc, give it to me straight. Can I still run this weekend?" And I saw one more good one. I got to share this one. It's a wedding scene, and the minister is just about to pronounce the marriage, and he goes, "Does anybody have something to say?" And somebody jumps up in the fourth row and goes, "I've run 19 marathons." And I love that one. You know, it's a variation of the old joke. How do you know if somebody's run a marathon? The answer is, don't worry, they'll tell you. So
Thank you, Bill. This was
Yeah.
great.
that's all I
Um,
got.
Thank you very, very much. This was really great, and we appreciate your time, and I appreciate everybody being on the call. I just want to just mention 2 more this month. Every month, we're going to have a series of peer-to-peers, and some professional triathletes are going to be coming on as well. But for the rest of this month, we have staying safe while running in the dark or riding in the dark with Ray next week. And then in 2 weeks, the Magic of Mohawk Hudson Marathon. And that's with Jacqueline Setzer. She is also a member, and she thinks that this is the best marathon that she ever did. So she's going to share her experience with us. I hope that you guys can join us, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Ulrich.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great job, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, fantastic. Really funny.
Thank you.
Loved hearing you.
Come run with us sometime. You hear my camping
I'm
stories.
scared. I got it on my calendar for this Sunday.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.